Hey guys, welcome back to an all new episode of a pro wrestling podcast with Matt and friends. I am your host, Matt Kozakowski, and alongside me today is pro wrestler. He is the young gun, Chandler Hopkins. Chandler, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. Just enjoying a nice chill day here in the great state of Oklahoma at the moment. It's nice and rainy, and I actually like a cool day. It's not so hot. I'm not sweating all the time, as you can see. I mean, weather stuff. So it's a nice day, man. How about yourself?
Oh, you know what, man? It's chilly outside. Like, it's not cool. It's chilly out here in Indiana. So it's it could be a little better. I wish I could just wear a flannel. I have to wear a jacket or a hoodie right now. So, but it is what it is. You can't complain with this kind of weather, I guess. It's better than the extreme heat. Let's just say that.
Absolutely.
No, man, I'm excited about the show. I think you're amazingly talented in that ring. I've watched a lot of your matches on YouTube. I think you're absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, like we talked about, I didn't get to see your match live at one of the Warrior Wrestling events because I almost passed out. So, but hey, man, we're going to get through this. We're going to talk about some stuff, and hopefully down the road, we get to see you live.
Yes,
so let's start basic here. When did you fall in love with pro wrestling? How old were you, like, when you were like, yo, this is the coolest thing ever?
So I didn't actually start watching any kind of wrestling until I was about 12. And it was because my stepdad had kind of came into our lives at that point, and he was a really big wrestling fan. And my mom was like very G-rated on all TV shows and movies and everything. So I had never even gotten a glimpse at what wrestling was, right? So whenever my stepdad kind of came around and started being around us more often, mom would work nights at the hospital, and he would be like, hey, y'all want to watch wrestling tonight? Of course, we don't get to watch anything else. It's that exciting. So yeah, let's do it. So it was probably around 99, 2000 era, right around that spot of Attitude Era stuff. And The Rock and Stone Cold were just two of the guys that were killing it with each other the entire time. It was just two of the main picture guys. And I immediately gravitated towards them. They were both so just their charisma was just so crazy, like charismatic as crap. And I couldn't just take my eyes away from the TV when those guys were on. So I was like, this is really cool. So it led into me and my brother, taking the couch cushions off the couch on the floor and having wrestling matches right there in front of our dad and stuff. And mom came around sooner or later, and dad ended up working at Cox Communications there in Amarillo, Texas. And they had it's probably I'd say it's a good 20-foot by 20-foot screen, a big projector screen that they had for their employees for like certain pay-per-views or anything that they wanted to watch. They could watch it for free. So my dad always got every single pay-per-view every month, and we went up to Cox Communications, and I got to watch my first probably year of pay-per-views on this 20 by 20 freaking projector screen, and it was just freaking awesome, and I fell in love with it.
Oh, absolutely. Now it's safe to say that Triple H, not Triple H, I was going to say Triple H, Stone Cold and The Rock were two of your favorites growing up. Did you have any other favorites like that you were like, yeah, dude, this dude is everything?
So my two ultimate favorites when I was a kid was The Rock and Shawn Michaels. And I mean, I think everyone in that era, it was those two people, or the Stone Cold, or maybe even Undertaker, Kane. They were big at that point as well. But like, I think most people gravitated towards Shawn and The Rock just because of how captivating they were. It didn't matter what they were doing. It didn't matter if they were wrestling or cutting a promo. When their music hit, people stopped doing what they were doing and looked at the entranceway. And that's the attention that they command, the presence that they have whenever they go through those curtains and they walk out and see the crowd, or just even whenever they post up on their social medias, people just gravitate towards it. So Shawn Michaels and The Rock were definitely my favorite, but it wasn't because of like their moves or, how over they were. It was because both of them knew how to sell. Like they were the ultimate sell masters. The Rock, man, sometimes, yes, was it too much? Of course, but that was The Rock. That's what he did. He was that extra guy. And then, man, he just looked like he got clobbered every single time he did anything. and he took amazing bumps. He was quick and snappy, like, and then he didn't. One thing I love about Sean is he doesn't take a move and lay in one area. If you don't cover him or if you're not trying to grab him, he's rolling to somewhere else. He's trying to crawl up in a corner. He's trying to get to his feet at some point in time. And that's one thing I hate about wrestling is so many people take a move and then just lay there. Like you're still right. So Sean was one of the best at it. He would set his opponents up in a certain area so that they had options of what they wanted to do to him. And that's something I really take from watching Sean is he was selling, yes, but at the same time, he was selling into another position so that the opposition could take control again. So it's really kind of crazy whenever you think about how his mind worked. And that's how I try and mimic my selling. And I don't lay there. I hate it. If it's a big move and I'm fixing to take a pin and we're laying down for a second, yeah, cool. But if you hit me with a body slam and I'm just laying there, no, I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. You better come get me. Let's have some fun. So, but Sean is lock for sure.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing, man, is like pro wrestling. I've been a fan of it since I was about 12 years old too. Like I grew up with it since 2003. I believe I'm a couple of years younger than you. You just turned 32 back in June, maybe.
Sure.
So I turned 30 3 weeks ago. So I'm a couple of years younger than you. But
well, happy late birthday.
Thank you. You too. But yeah, no, I mean, that's how I fell in love with wrestling too. I mean, there's always things that I point out about pro wrestling that I absolutely love. The talking, the look, and the ring set. But the selling too is another storytelling. And I don't think a lot of people understand that the selling of a move, makes a wrestler too. And there's one guy who I absolutely loved everything that he sold was Dolph Ziggler. I absolutely think he is one of the best at selling moves that I've ever seen. I mean, you don't see a lot of that nowadays. Like you don't see a lot of people just sell moves. They get right back up after things. And unfortunately, it's very upsetting. It's very sad because like you see somebody get super kicked and literally in 2 seconds they're up. Like I'm like, dude, you got kicked in the face. Like stay down for a minute.
Exactly. It doesn't give you time to, I mean, I understand the concept. I'm not, and I don't want to bash it because I have to do those matches in some places as well. That's just what some places want you to do. But if I have the opportunity to take a slower match just so I can tell a story and sell more, especially if I'm new somewhere, that's one of my favorite things to do. I'm always a baby face everywhere I go. So one of my favorite things to do is whenever I'm new somewhere is cool. I'm going to get my ass whooped, but I'm going to show you how good I can get my ass whooped, and y'all are gonna like me so much afterwards. You're like, yo, we want to see that guy kick somebody's ass. So I enjoy that because I can captivate and bring them in closer with me. And then whenever I do the cool moves afterwards, it's like, oh shit, he's got that little bit of energy left. Can he come from under? The selling makes everything. It make life so much easier instead of making it 10 times harder on every wrestler because we have to hit people with 4 moves now just to get a pin anymore. Like,
oh yeah.
Or towards the end of the match when you have to stack some stuff. It don't need to be the entire match. I get it. I enjoyed it sometimes as well because I like to test myself and just push myself in the aspect of going into the wrestling ring with someone like that. But in the grand scheme of things, storytelling is what wrestling is. It's what wrestling's always been. It's what it will always be. And we need to get back to the point of selling and actually telling a story instead of hit big move, hit big move, hit big move, hit big move, pin, kick out.
At two. Kick out at 2.
Everything's at 2. I hate that too. Like, hey man, you ever kicking out at 1? Like, no, why? I was like, well, you should. Like, you're not giving the count to anybody. If you kick out at 1 early, then people are conditioned to, oh, he might kick out at 1 again instead of you can give him a 2 later in the match. Like, you don't give everything a 2. It's like, I can have 2.
Yep. I mean, what are we all, John Cena?
Right.
Kick out at 2.
Jesus.
Oh man. But it's funny though, because when we met at that Warrior Wrestling event that we were talking about before we started, you were telling me that you always wanted to get into football. Football was what you wanted to do. What changed your mind into getting into pro wrestling instead of football?
So football was my first love ever. It was the second the pigskin was in my hands whenever I was young. My uncles were throwing it around with me, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with every aspect of the game. and I enjoyed being outside. So it made it that much better. I was like, all right, cool. I don't got to be cooped up indoors somewhere. I can be outside. I can enjoy the weather. I can do something I love to do. And it was something I was actually pretty dang good at. So I just stuck with that all through just growing up. It was my main sport. Every year I played that. There were sometimes I played maybe baseball along with it or a basketball, but every single year it was football. And whenever I got into high school, I got to the point where I was like, oh, hey, I can really hang with some of the good ones. Like I can do this. And I played receiver and cornerback, and I was also kick return, punt return man. So I was fast. So I knew all I had to do was keep working on my skills and making myself better, and I could go to the next level. Well, I tried to go to a JUCO because I didn't really understand the process of getting into colleges and everything. It's just not at that time. It was not something you could just get online and do. The
Right.
school scout had to be out and see you, and somebody had to tell that guy or whoever was scouting, hey, you need to come check this kid out. So I tried to join. I tried to walk on at Southwestern Oklahoma State University, and there was a serious look into having me on the team. But at the end of the time, at the end of that day, it just wasn't going to fit. So I took a chance at semi-pro. So I went and played semi-professional football in Amarillo, Texas for the Amarillo Titans for 1 year and showed everyone what I could do and build a resume. Well, after the year was up, I had a couple teams asking for me to be on their team for the next year. So I played with the Lubbock HC Bisons, in which I got to go play at Cowboy Stadium with at the end of the year. So that was pretty awesome. But at the end of that year, after doing it for 2 years, I kind of understood like the element, or I guess the more so the mentality of semi-pro football.
Yeah.
And it was not really one of those things that many people made it to the next level out of. You could go to the draft, you could qualify to get into it, but at the end of the day, no one had heard of you, no one cared. And unless you just stood out and you were the most spectacular at your position, it wasn't going to happen. That was just football. So I decided that I was just going to give up on, and it's hard to say sometimes because I literally gave up on a dream. And that's not me. That's not who I've ever been. But at that point in time, I was 25 years old and I was like, man, I got to do something or I'm just going to be here. So I was selling cars, and I was selling cars for a little bit, having a good time doing it, making good money. And a buddy of mine asked me if I had ever been to a wrestling event because he had extra tickets, and WWE was coming to Chesapeake Arena in Oklahoma City. So I was like, yeah, I'd go with you. He didn't even know I was a closet wrestling freak. Like I enjoyed it. So we get there. I don't tell him anything about it or anything. I'm letting him explain things to me and what's going on and everything. And about halfway through, we're sitting there talking about John Cena. And he was like, I started just rambling off about him, what he'd done, who he'd beaten, what he'd done this year, who his rivalry was. And he was like, yo, bro, what the hell you been holding out on? I was like, yeah. So he really get in depth on wrestling. And I started really kind of finding that love for wrestling just through conversation again, because I really hadn't kept up with it just a whole lot, except for like in about 6 months to a year before that, it started happening with him. And so he asked me, he's like, have you ever been to an indie show? And I was like, what the hell is an indie show? I didn't know. And he was like, yo, bro, you've got to go with me sometime. So he took me to a company that was doing some shows, and it's called IWR. And they were doing like some talent search as well. And they had said it during their intermission, gave out their website, and I immediately went and looked. And I was like, man, this, because I was looking at the guys in the ring. I was like, man, this doesn't look too far fetched from what I could do. Like, I mean, this could seriously be something that I could take on. Yeah, it's later in my life, but I feel like I got a better head on my shoulders now. I might be starting later than most people, but let's see what happens. So I was about 20, I was 26, fixing to turn 27 whenever I started. And I sent that email in, and it was within 5 minutes. They were saying that they would accept me into the school and everything. I had to be there for Saturdays and Sundays for the next X amount of months and weeks. And that was going to hinder my working schedule because I was selling cars, and you don't get weekends off when you're selling cars.
Right.
So I had to make a deal with my boss because he understood what I was trying to do, and he understood like my need for it. I was just really needing that athletic like I just needed something in my life that was athletic again. Me being just gung ho, go get it, no worries, let's have fun kind of thing. Like I missed that competition. And he understood. So he was like, all right, cool, I'll make you a deal. Keep your numbers by working Monday through Friday that you're doing now. And I'll let you have Saturday, Sunday off so that you can drive down to Ardmore, Oklahoma and wrestle every single weekend. I said, oh, that's it. He's like, but you got to keep your numbers. And Monday through Friday is not easy because Saturday and Sunday is the big day. It's when everybody's off. It's
Yeah.
when everybody. And I was in the internet. I was the internet car sales manager, so I got leads off the internet as well. So I was just sitting there hustling Monday through Friday, getting people in, keeping my numbers, so that I could sit there every single weekend, drive down to Ardmore, Oklahoma from Oklahoma City. And I was driving there Monday or Friday, or I'm sorry, I was driving there Saturday and Sunday. Sometimes I'd drive down Friday after work and I stay with a buddy, and I would train Saturday, Sunday. I'd get back in the car Sunday afternoon, get home to my apartment Sunday night around 8, 9 o'clock, shower, get ready, and be back at work the next day at 6 o'clock Monday morning, so that I could start hitting my numbers. And I did that for about, I'd say it was like 6 to 8 months before they were like, all right, we're ready to debut you. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah. So I up and left everything in Oklahoma City, moved down to Ardmore, and I lived with one of the guys that was pretty much running the wrestling show. And I just started taking every opportunity I could get in wrestling. I gave it all up, everything I had, took a chance, and on a whim, I moved down to Ardmore, Oklahoma. And for a year and a half, I lived there and started building my name as a wrestler.
That's pretty impressive. That's awesome. Especially being a car salesman, trying to do all that. I mean, that stressful probably for sure.
Man, there were days where I was just like, do I really, like, is this really going to be worth all this extra that I'm having to do right now? Like, is it really going to be worth it? And like doing the things that I've gotten to do and places I've gotten to go see already just in 5 years, I'm like, oh yeah, it was, even if tomorrow it all ends for me, it was well worth everything I've had to give up or lose, just because of the memories I'll get to have. So definitely would do it again in a heartbeat.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure. And like I said before, I mean, you're extremely talented in that ring. Like, I mean, just the agility you can do in that ring is like, yeah, dude. Like, there's some stuff I even have on here that I have never seen before that you've done. And I'm like, yeah, dude, all right, this is the shit. Like, I love it. Absolutely.
I try to be a little different. I don't know. I guess just whenever I first started, I wanted to do the Cowboy, and for the first year and a half, they wouldn't let me because I was with a certain promotion. I was like, "Nah, Cowboys are overplayed. You can't do it. You'll never pull it off." And then I had a chance to do it, and it was starting to work. And the guy didn't like it that I was working for at that company, and so everything kind of started going downhill. And I was like, "You know what? I'm out." So I started doing my own thing, and I went to other promotions, and I started growing my own brand at the Cowboy. And now it's funny because that same promoter messages me every once in a while and goes, "Hey, you want to come work for us? Hey, you want to come work for us? I know it's not going to happen right now, but hey, maybe you never know. In wrestling, never say never. You want to come work for us?" And I'm just like, man, if you just see every single person's face that told me that it was never going to happen, whenever they see it happening, like that would just be the ultimate sign of gratification for myself. Not because they're doing it, but because I proved to them that I could do it. Like I went out and said, you know what? I don't care what you think. Like I'm gonna do it anyways. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. And that's the thing, man, is like, I can't picture you being anything other than a Cowboy wrestler. It's funny though, because a lot of people would, resonate the Cowboy thing with Adam Page now. And I do it with you. So like, I'm like, yeah, Chandler Hopkins is the original Cowboy shit, So I absolutely love it, man.
He started doing the actual cowboy gimmick. Like he wasn't really always in cowboy stuff. Now he's in cowboy jeans. He wasn't really doing that until AEW started. And then whenever I went up there and he kind of seen that he even grabbed my jeans and he was like, "Yo, bro, are those real denim?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh man, that's impressive." But I can't wrestle in the boots like he wrestles in either. So I was like, "Oh, that's impressive." So
yeah,
there's give and take in wrestling. Everyone can say I did it first, I did that first, but I appreciate that you resonate me with the Cowboy, because I tell everyone, "Hey man, it's Young Gun. How are you, man?" No. I'm the Young Gun. I'm the dude. I'm that guy. You put the D in front of it because I'm the only one. Like I'm the Young Gun.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And like you said, dude, I mean, Adam Page was not the Cowboy dude up until about 2-3 years ago. And you've been doing this for a little longer than that as the Cowboy. So
about 4 years, 5 years total in wrestling, but about 4 years is when I've actually started the Cowboy. So
oh, absolutely. Adam Page went from the young boy to growing up into the Cowboy, going back. You could tell like he had that little vibe there, but it wasn't full effect until AEW started.
just two different types of cowboy. He's got that Georgia Southern, and I'm just really Texas Southern. So it's crazy how different they really are. But whenever you like get two people in the same room like that, like it's just completely night and day on the cowboy factor.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So who was the trainer when you trained?
So I don't know if you know him. It was Montego Sika and Joe Harrell, the Chickasaw Warrior from the Aero Club.
Okay.
They were the head trainers there, but it was one of those things where like they were good, but they could only teach you so much. And at some point in time, we kind of like after we got past all this little stuff that you could learn, we had to start teaching ourselves. So I had a key to the arena, and I would just go up there literally like at random times every single day. And myself and Fuego del Sol actually really trained with each other. And I also trained with the Magnificent Malico. Like all three of us would really get together and train with each other. But me and Fuego, we just had one of those connections from the start when we were sitting there training. Like we understood what we wanted to be and where we wanted to go, but we understood it was going to take time. But we needed somebody that was on our level that could help us and push us further. And that's what we did for each other. We pushed each other to greater heights than I think we would have ever been if we wouldn't have trained with one another. And just some of like I still have training clips with him that I go back and watch, like, oh, we could have done this, we could have done that. But we just got Dr. Tom Pritchard's book and read it front to back. And basically it's one of those things where we self-trained ourselves. Like, yes, basic knowledge. That was not ours that we had took. We took that from somebody else, but we had the basic knowledge. And in wrestling, you're only going to get better by experience. So I knew I had to go start having as many matches as possible. And at that point, I really wasn't worried about the quality over quantity. I was worried about getting the quantity so I had as much experience with any type of level so that I could control and do what I needed to do in the ring. Because I didn't want to sit there and be like, yo, hey, we're both green. Who's going to control this? Oh my God, we're going to have a bad match. No, I want to be like, oh, cool. We're both green. How long have you been working? Sweet. I know I can do this with you. Just listen to me. Or even there's times where I've been in the ring with names. When I wrestled Mike Bennett or I wrestled Davey Richards, I did the same thing. I did my own thing, and I just did what I wanted to do because I knew how to do it because of the experience that I had through the past 5 years and 550 plus matches that I've had. It was absolutely. And it was the effort, it was the drives. And that's what we always talk about. Like, if you really want it, you'll go get it. You ain't gonna sit at home and be like, oh, I don't have a match this weekend. Well, what did you do to go get a match? Did you message a promoter? Did you reach out to buddies and say, hey man, do you mind if I jump in the car with you? Like, did you do any of that to actually get on a show this weekend? No? Oh, well, then you didn't do what you needed to do. Like, I didn't have that option. It was go for broke or don't do it. Like, I didn't have the option. I needed wrestling. Wrestling literally saved me, and I put in the grind for it. I only want to like leave this place better. And I found it, wrestling in general. But at the same time, I want to be that guy that was like, yo, we knew he was a hard worker when we met him because his track record proves it. And that's what I like to see is proof is in the pudding. I'm not just saying it with my words. I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to go do something and not do it. I'm proving it with action, and I'm getting in a ring with these guys and showing that I can hang, that I'm on that level. I just need to go to that next level so that I can come up to the next level with them. Like, I can only do so much with what I've got right now, and I enjoy it. I'm enjoying getting to do a lot of the big matches that I'm getting to do, but big match once every other month or once a month now is cool, but it's not getting me the knowledge and the experience that I want. I need to be pushed further. I need to be pushed harder. I want to learn more. So it's one of those things like every single week, I want to be working a bigger name than me. I want to get in the ring someone who's better than me every single week so that I can learn at a faster pace, because that's where I thrive. I love to be thrown to the wolves. Like if you literally took me out right now and put me in the ring with 5 of your favorite wrestlers that are big names and said, hey, go have a match. I know right now I could cold call an entire match with them and get my simple shit over to them like that while I'm in the ring, because I've done it so many times. It's just second nature to me. And that's one thing that a lot of these guys have told me afterwards, like, man, you're just so smooth and fluent. You know where you want to go. You get there and you do it. Like, cool. You need to keep doing that. Like, okay, cool. I'll keep doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
But it only came because of the quality, like the quantity of matches that I took on so early in my career. Now it's to that point, yeah, I'm getting to really say quality over quantity, right? Because I have a lot of that knowledge now. Now the only knowledge that I really need is the knowledge from those guys that are above me, like that are up here cruising on at higher levels, that are signed places. Like, all right, cool. That's now the knowledge that I'm looking for. So that's where I'm headed, and that's where I'm going, and that's why I'm working so hard, because I understand you don't get to that level without putting in the work.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That throw to the Wolves pun, was that not, that wasn't a throw towards Davey, was it?
Oh, no, no. I mean, I did feel like I got thrown to the wolves on that one, because I had no idea that it was coming. But it was one of those things that whenever it was announced and when I seen he was coming back through wrestling again anyways, like it was something that automatically came up on my list. I mean, I have a goal board behind me and I put him up there. And after I mark them out, I usually replace them with somebody else. I'll mark them out, take a picture so I have it for my records, and I replace it with something else. But Davey's still on there marked out, because that was like a dream match that I never thought I was going to get. And then when he came back, I was like, okay, I got to put him on board. And put him on board, and like 2 weeks later, Pele Pros call me like, hey, so what do you think about Davey Richards? I was like, oh, are you serious? They're like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. So got to mark him off, and he's going to stay there for a while, because that was a wolf that I enjoyed getting thrown to. Like I can't even tell you how much I learned in that match.
Oh, absolutely.
Way he just
No, absolutely, man. And you know what? Davey's probably, besides JT Dunn, Davey and him are both my top favorite independent wrestlers of all time. Like those two are absolutely incredible. Davey's absolutely a legend in wrestling, I think. So getting an opportunity, especially in his first year back, to wrestle him, that probably was one of the coolest things to do.
Absolutely. Like now the only thing I had to do is wrestle Eddie Edwards and then wrestle him as a tag team. And then I'll be like, all right, check and check. We're good.
Yep.
Never got to wrestle again if you don't want to. But
a lot of people said for a while Eddie Edwards has become the face of Impact Wrestling. You know, I think Eddie Edwards is the face of Impact Wrestling. I think he's the heart and soul of that company. Absolutely incredible.
Hard. So hard. God, you can just tell, like, and just to be able to like change characters and gimmicks and be a different person, persona like that, like on a switch, and go from bay face to heel like that on a switch. He can cut promos. He looks good. Like the dude is the full package right now. And you know what? I wouldn't say that he's not the face of Impact Wrestling, but at the same time, like there's a lot of guys there that are really good. And
absolutely.
I think he could teach still a lot to a lot of those younger guys. And I think he wants to. I don't know. I would hope so anyways. I mean, knowing how Davey is, I would kind of expect them to kind of be somewhat similar, since they did it for so long with each other.
Yep.
But like, I'm sure he's just got so much knowledge, and that would be another one to be able to mark off the list. That'd be really awesome.
Well, I'd love to see you at Impact. I think that'd be a really cool thing too, because Impact, ever since not this past year's Slammiversary, but last year's Slammiversary, ever since then, Impact's grown. And I think Impact still, people doubt it just because of what had happened beforehand. Like it wasn't at that level anymore. But the matches they put on and the quality of matches they put on in the past year and a half alone has been insane. So I think seeing Chandler Hopkins on Impact Wrestling would be really cool. That'd be a goal for sure.
Honestly, out of all the promotions right now, out of all of them that are really going strong, your MLW, your Impact, I mean, let's take a moment for ROH. That's so bad, but they'll be back stronger than ever. But like you got MLW, you've got Impact, you got AEW, you got New Japan, you got WWE, you got AAA, you got all these places that are doing really well. But I see myself as the best fit in Impact, not only because that's where I'd want to go, but because like I feel like that's where I can be pushed to my limit the best. I'm actually going to get to work if I go to Impact.
Oh, for sure.
I'll tell you that right now. If I was to go to AEW right now, it wouldn't be much of a working, which is not a bad thing because I'd be in the back learning from all those guys. But right now I'm at that point in my career where I'm in the proving zone. Like I want to prove to every single person that I belong here, that I can go further, that this is what I want to do. And you're going to see me for a lot longer. And the talent that Impact has from the bottom of the roster to the top of the roster is freaking amazing.
Oh yeah.
And of course, like, come on now. Come on now.
Oh, for sure, man. I
But
think, like I said, man, you're absolutely incredible at what you do, and being in that ring, in that roster with the stars of Impact. Dude, I would love to see you versus Steve Macklin. I think that'd be insane.
I love telling big man, small guy stories. That's freaking one of my favorite things to do. And it's honestly one of the easiest matches to do. But I would take that. Like, let me show up, Impact. Let me show up. I'll take him for my first match. I'll make him even more over. But
that's a dream match of me now. It's a dream match of me now versus you versus Steve Macklin. We got to put that out there, man. We got to see it happen.
First, now let's make it happen.
After that match, though, you guys beat up on Cameron Cole, who I think Cameron Cole is an amazing talent. I think he's going to be a future star everywhere he goes. Dude is just ridiculously talented. Have you ever worked one-on-one against Cameron Cole? I haven't seen that match, so I don't know if you have.
Yeah, we've had matches against each other. 1, 2, 3. We're actually a tag team as well. We hold these tag team championships right here. Both of us are on the same tag. We hold those together. So I mean, I've been in the ring with him plenty. I know him pretty well. And yes, he is very talented. He is definitely one of those guys that on the charismatic side, he just blows it out of the water. He can do heel or baby face. He's very much more confident in the heel side because it's just here for him. But he's a great baby face too. Don't ever let him lie to you. And yeah, he can work. He may not do flashy stuff, but he knows how to work. And that's just a product of, coming from Booker T's school. Like, he grew up over there at Rowe and traveled to Indies, and he's getting the teaching from one of the biggest wrestler names ever in wrestling. And, at the same time, he's putting in the work all over as well. So he'll be a guy that we see for a long time. No doubts that we'll share many more times in the ring. So
dude is ridiculously talented. But speaking of reality of wrestling, 2 matches that I watched of yours was against Gio Medina and Mysterious Q in the Texas Grand Prix. How was it wrestling both of them? They're both ridiculously talented as well. So
I've wrestled Gino many times, and me and Gino, it's funny because that Texas wrestling thing that you're talking about, we recorded all of our matches in one day. And it was just like one of those, like, you're done, go, you're done, go, you're done, go, you're done. And so Gino and I didn't even call a match. We talked about the finish literally for 2 minutes because I had just finished a match. He came back to I came back to the curtain. We talked for 2 minutes about what the finish was, and we went out and we called that whole match in the ring. And I still haven't really watched it, but in the ring, it felt fun. It was great. And him and I actually talked about that the other day, but it's because Gino and I know each other. We've worked so many shows with each other. We've done crazy stuff with each other. We've done simple, fun stuff. So we knew what the other person did. And then Mysterious Q, that was the first time I had worked him. But I'd seen him around locker rooms all the time. Him and I were friends. We were good buddies. We talked and we hung out, but we had never been in the ring with one another, which was difficult for me and Mr. Q because we had to call that entire match in the ring as well because he came back from his match and it was me and him next. And he was like, all right, what are we doing? I was like, well, here's the finish. And we just did it in the ring as well. So it's really cool to be able to do that with people because you know how talented they are because you've seen them do it time and time again. Knowing that they come from Rowe, I understand they know how to cold call because it's just something that I guarantee Booker's going to implement. Like, that's just wrestling. That's improv 101. Hey, you see something, you do something, you try and figure it out, do your thing.
Oh, absolutely. And they're, like I said, man, I mean, reality of wrestling just pulls out talent after talent after talent. I'm a big fan of their promotion. I think everything that they put on is absolutely great.
They do a great job. And, I've been fortunate enough to, it's crazy because I've been asked to come down there several times, but the dates just haven't matched. But I've wrestled every single person on their roster. So it's almost one of those things where, like, sometimes I feel like I've been to Rowe without being to Rowe because their ins and outs. I've been in the ring with their top dogs. I can hang with their top dogs all the time. And, I never had to go there, but I still feel like I get some of the teachings and learnings because I would work those guys on a regular basis.
Oh, absolutely. And I think another guy who I seen wrestle one match in reality of wrestling, who I'm a big fan of, he's been on my show, I think another dream match to see you against now would be against Stephen Wolf. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he's an amazing talent. I think Chandler Hopkins versus Stephen Wolf is a match we need to see. Maybe we can get it in reality of wrestling. I talked to him about possibly going back there for more matches because he just came back from an injury, and he said it's possible. So we'll see.
Maybe. You know what? I may know who he is. I just, the name's not ringing a bell. I'm a face guy too. Like, I'm horrible with names. I've seen you 4 or 5 times, and we've had conversations each time. It's like, oh shit, I'm my bad, bro. What's your name again? So I'm more of a face guy here, but I'm down to mix up with whoever. Like, especially anyone who is coming back from an injury. That's one thing that I know I can handle. I can handle that pressure of taking care of whatever needs to be taken care of. But at the same time, he seems like he knows what he's doing as well, since he's been there. And I have no doubt that he's probably prepared and done what he needs to do to get back in that ring. So yeah, I'd love to have a match with him, see what we could create together.
Hopefully that happens. I think it'd be great. Couple guys you've wrestled that I have matches on here against too. You had an MLW match against Lowkey. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but how was your experience with him?
Honestly, I was so damn scared going into that match because I was getting so many messages. I didn't know they were dropping a flyer. First off, I got the week before, I got called and say, hey, we want you here. What's it going to cost to get you there? This is what you're doing. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, usually they don't, like, if you're just getting called in, they're not going to put a flyer up of you because you're just going in to get squashed and you're getting the hell out of there, right? Well, they freaking dropped a flyer with me and Lowkey in the middle of the night while I was asleep, and I woke up to over like 100 and something notifications on my freaking stuff. And I was like, at that time, that was the first time that had really happened. And I was like, why is my shit blowing up? I open up Twitter and bam. I open up Instagram and bam. Open up Facebook and bam. There's freaking flyers in my face. And I'm just like, oh, so you're putting flyers out of me and everything. Oh, you're promoting this and you're calling me like Dallas's favorite. Oh crap, you're really trying to do something here. So I was like, they're trying to sign me. Like, they've been paying attention, and there's a reason that I've got this match with Lowkey. So I get there that day, and Marshall and Ross, the Von Erichs, they are 2 of my good friends. We've hung out many times. They are 2 great people, and I couldn't have done a lot of the stuff that I got through early on in my career without those guys pushing me. So they come up to me and they're like, bro, it's been so long. We hadn't seen each other in probably 1.5 years, 2 years. We just got big hugs and caught up and had a good time. And they're like, you're wrestling Lowkey tonight, huh? And I was like, yeah. And I was telling them I'm pretty nervous because everybody that was on the flyers commenting to me was like, oh my God, Lowkey's going to kill you. You better protect yourself. Or people would send me messages like, yo, he's super stiff, going to kill you. And I'm just like, what the hell is wrong with these people? And some of them are wrestlers that have wrestled him, And I'm like, man, this guy can't be that bad. So the boys take me to the back, and I'm just kind of meeting everybody. And Lowkey comes up, puts his hand on my shoulder, turns me around, and was like, shook my hand, was like, it's going to be a pleasure, man. We're going to have a great time. And we just started talking like we had known each other. And I was just like, okay, this is not the Lowkey that everyone's like trying to warn me about or telling me about. Like, this dude's genuine. He is really just one of those guys that enjoys wrestling. His biggest thing, and I can see why people would say it, is he is a shoot MMA guy. He knows how to throw those kicks and punches and elbows and knees, and he knows it to a T. So whenever he sees certain people do it, and he's like, if you don't have that background, you shouldn't do it. Well, I kind of agree with it, but he never gave me that critique because he knew I had that background. So I think that's one reason as to why we meshed so well. And as the match went on, like, we were just having so much fun, and he wasn't having to tell me where to go. He wasn't having to control me into areas. I was selling around for him. He was saying, yeah, that's good. Oh man, keep doing that. Yeah, that's nice. Hey, good shot. Like, and he was giving compliments throughout the match to me. And I'm just like, man, that's not normal. And in my head, like, I'm sitting here going like, what is going on here? Like, these guys are really giving me a push. And it wasn't a go out and get your ass kicked by Lowkey. It was a 50-50 match where they was like, we don't want you to take a pin and we don't want you to submit. We're just going to have you pass out to keep you strong. And I'm like, whoa, now you're telling me you want to keep me strong. What the hell? Match finishes and I'm starting to roll out of the ring, and Lowkey stops me in the ring while I'm rolling, rolls me back over, shakes my hand and says, that was one hell of a match. Shakes my hand for a good second and like rolls me out. And I'm just like, okay, what the something's going up. I get behind the curtain and everyone like, oh my God, it's awesome. It was so good match. Oh, this part where you did that was cool. And the guys that were in the locker room watching from TV are sitting there telling me what their favorite spots were. And I'm just like, okay, I'm so fucking confused. I turned to, and that gorilla is Bauer, and he's sitting there and he's got his headphones on, but he points to his headphones and goes like, and I'm just like, okay, this is getting even weirder. So St. Laurent pulls me to the side and he was like, hey man, we really were impressed by your stuff. We know what you can do. Lowkey enjoyed your match and we'd like to offer you a contract. And I was like, oh, okay. So my first feelings was like excitement and like, oh, this is so freaking awesome. It's finally here. And it's like, we'll have it over to you in about a week. Take your time, think about what you would like to do and what you wouldn't like to do. And we'll send you the details. So for like 4 days, I'm sweating bullets waiting for this email, checking my phone every 5 seconds. And finally email comes through and it's got the stats of what the contract would be. And I just wasn't what I was expecting. It was.
All right, we lost you there for a second, Chandler. So continue.
Sorry. When mama calls, I had to do. Sorry, but yeah, I just wasn't expecting the term on what it was, and they wanted a 4-year term, and at the time, I had just turned 30, and I was like, I don't want to sign somewhere and be somewhere for 4 years and be 34 before I have an opportunity to go somewhere else and build. And so I ran the stuff by several of my friends in the business that are signed at other places because I knew they would have a good idea as to what was good and what wasn't. And it was unanimous. Every single one of them was like, don't sign that. That is not, no, you're worth more than that. You don't need to sign for 4 years. Don't sign more than 2 years. This is what you should be looking for. And I was like, oh, okay. So a couple of them helped me with like counter offers, and me and St. Laurent went back a couple of times via counter offers, and it just ended up being one of those things where it just wasn't a place for me. And I told them ultimately, okay, well then it's just a no for me. I'm sorry. Respect them and I appreciate them, and they still try and reach out to me to do stuff. They had a show, or they're having a show here soon in Dallas, and they reached out to me for that, and we just couldn't make things work on their end either with that. So I respect what they're doing. I love to see what the brand is and how it's growing. But for me, it just wasn't a spot for me to be at. And honestly, I think it did me better being able to tell them no, because now I know what I'm looking for. Now I know what to pay attention to. And I think that's why Impact is probably one of the places that fits me best, because I know where they start with new guys. I know how they build talent. Their roster is full of amazing talent that I've been in the ring with or shared locker rooms with already, who already know of me and have seen me work. So it's just one of those things where I think Impact's probably the best fit.
Oh, for sure. No, absolutely. I think, like I said, man, I think that'd be the biggest spot for you. Impact's growing as a company in the past year and a half, especially, and just so much amazing talent coming in through that roster. It's insane. They just signed Speedball Mike Bailey. Congrats to him. Freaking, huge name.
That's awesome. Such a good pickup. Like, that guy has been on the indies for too long without somebody picking him up. And
for sure. For sure. So a couple other matches that I've seen you wrestle against. You wrestled a legend in the business as well, like AR Fox. I seen that match. I thought it was absolutely incredible. You wrestled Mike Bennett, another storytelling match. Mike Bennett, I remember seeing him when he first started, and he had like this lip bandana thing on his head, and like this little Z on his trunks. Like, I'm like, dude, this dude, I don't know what it is, but he's going to be a star. And look at what the name he came out to be. Another guy, Lance Archer, you wrestled him. That was actually the first match that I've watched of yours on YouTube that I kind of seen like heel tendencies. Like, you jumped out of the ring, went to go sit in a chair, and I was like, man, this is a whole different side of Chandler.
Here's the thing, and Lance made a really good point, because the match type was Battle of Texas. Whoever won was the best of Texas that night, right? Well, you have Lance Archer, who is on AEW, and he's the Murder Hawk, and people know and love him. yes, it's my backyard, and a lot of people know and love me as well. But a lot of people that know and love me know and love him just as much. And he goes, here's the thing. I normally would be a heel everywhere I go, but we're in my hometown. People are going to cheer me. And I was like, so what are you saying? He goes, you going to have to be a little bit of a heel tonight. And I was like, that's fine. So I played the chicken shit heel for a little bit, and we had a good time. And, it was funny because he does his choke slam with his right hand. And he was telling me, he's like, well, I can't do the choke slam tonight. And in my mind, I'm like, yes, thank God. End of the day, I'm like, man, but he's 7 foot tall. People want to see him choke slam somebody. And I was like, what's wrong with your arm? And he was like, my shoulder's a little messed up. I just took a dive and I can't really pick it up too much right now. I want to let it heal. And I was like, well, choke slam me with your left one. He's like, I've never done a left-handed choke slam ever. He's like, and I don't want to mess it up. I was like, you trust me? He goes, yeah, I trust you. Why? I was like, give me a left-handed choke slam. And he was like, all right. He's like, but it's all you. I was like, okay. And I posted the pictures before, and in that match, and you can see in the match, the choke slam he gives me his left hand is that he told me is like it's the only left-handed choke slam I've ever given. And he's got me literally stretched out like as high as he can, and he's on his tippy toes. And he did not lift me for any of that. I completely jumped. I based off of it. I pushed off, and I got up as high as I could for him because I knew the structure of what we needed, and I knew he couldn't do it with his right arm. So I get up there and I take that choke slam from him, and he's pinning me, and he goes, holy shit, that was awesome. Match, like, Lance is one of those guys that he is just one big ass cuddly teddy bear. He might kill me if he sees this. But man, why are you saying that? Like, man, because you are. Like, he's just a really good dude. And he plays this murder hawk monster on TV, and he does it really well. And I think he's one of the best big men in the business. But he is such a big, just cuddly teddy bear. He's such a nice guy. And I won't say anything otherwise.
Oh man, I've been a fan of his ever since he was Dallas and TNA in the early days when he teamed up with Kid Cash. I've been a big fan of his for the longest time. His team with Kurt Hawkins in WWE, super underrated. I think was insanely incredible. But yeah, everything he's done, man, I think that dude is just a star. Always has been, always will be. And he's just an animal. Like, just
damn long for him to get a second action figure too. It took 15 years. Him and I were talking about that. He was like, yeah, like someone posted a picture of his TNA one with his current AEW one, and there's night and day of each other. And I was just like, dang. He's like, yeah, 15 years it took me to get a second one. And I was like, damn, man, like that's ridiculous. You should have had mini toys by now.
Yeah, it's insane. I'm a big wrestling figure collector, and it's funny because I never wanted to collect AEW figures. I've actually got a side collection of the Street Profits. So I am a big fan of theirs. I don't know. It's just, they're friggin' incredible, but I collect WWE elites, and I seen the Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus figures, and I'm like, man, these are incredible. So I'm like, all right, so here's the deal. If they have a WWE elite figure, I'll get that, and I won't get a AEW figure of theirs. So like Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, like, I've got a WWE elite of Dean Ambrose, but I'm not buying John Moxley's figure because I don't have that kind of money. But the Lance Archer one is one on my list for sure, because I think it's incredibly detailed. I think it's insanely awesome, and I'm a big fan of his. I think he's absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. And, there's the profit margin for that years down the road would be so amazing if you ever had to deal with it as well, simply because he doesn't have very many of them. He's got 2 different action figures. So the value stuff will go, and he's going to keep adding value to his brand and name too. So, it's just one of those things where, like, especially if you get it now, who knows what it's going to be worth down the road if you ever decide you need to get rid of it or anything like that, or you decide to pass it on down to your family, whatever. Like, that thing can be so valuable one day because there's so few of them.
Oh, for sure, man. I think like you said, and that's the thing. I mean, later on down the road, I'd get rid of them if I have to, but I'm a big nerd. I mean, so I got a big wrestling collection, so I'm keeping those for a long time. But you've actually wrestled him a couple times. You wrestled him in an AEW Dark match. You've had a couple matches in AEW Dark. What's that?
That was a Dynamite match. Yeah, it wasn't Dark.
Dynamite. Yeah. I tweaked out there for a second. But you wrestled on AEW a couple times. What was your experience like with AEW?
AEW is awesome. They put me in the ring 7 different times for 7 different matches, and every single time I had a blast working with each one of their talents. They're all so kind, and they're willing to do what they can to help you, but they understand what they're there to do as well. And I got to work an elevation match, my very first match. It was against Joey, and luckily for me, Sonny Kiss is just a good person and has followed me for a while and had seen my stuff, and we had talked several times and put me over to Joey. And Joey was just super excited to work with me, and he gave me a lot. And he was like, "We're going to do whatever we can to make them see you." And we had a great match on elevation. And I think at that point they were like, "Okay, this kid can go." So they wanted to see what else I could do, like for them. Where I think they wanted to see more so what I was willing to do for them as well. And so I started having matches like triple threat or 6-man tag matches. I wrestled Team Taz. I wrestled Dark Order twice. I wrestled Billy Gunn and his sons with Arn Anderson's son. And then of course I wrestled Wardlow 1-on-1 and wrestled Lance 1-on-1. So
and Brian Cage
1-on-1. So there's just a lot of opportunity that they gave me. And I feel like I went out and I succeeded in each time that I went out and did so. Who knows what the future holds, but I enjoy AEW. If they was to offer me and say, "Hey, would you come work here?" Absolutely, because I know I can learn from them. Do I think I'm going to get put into matches and get to start doing stuff right away? Probably not. They have a certain, talent roster that they're trying to build right now, and they've got so much talent. It's crazy, which is another reason why I think Impact would be better for me, because I can get right to it and I don't have to wait. But the knowledge I can learn at AEW by being there would be crazy as well. There's just so much talent there. Had a blast. I've had a good time, and they're coming back to Dallas in December. And who knows? They may be reaching out and saying, "Hey, can we use you?" So if they do,
hopefully, man, I would love to see you back there. Doing your thing. Unfortunately, we all know how those matches play out. Quote unquote, as a wrestling fan, we'd call it jobber matches,
Right.
But like I told Jason Hotch in my last show, which we're going to talk about him in a second here. I told him, I said, the fact of what AEW does with their jobber matches, they at least give you guys some offense, which is really awesome to see. Because when you look at WWE jobber matches, or you look at, other places, they lose with very little offense. So you guys at least get a chance to show what you guys are capable of in those type of matches. Although we all know like who's going to become the victor in that match.
Right.
It's one of those things where like, it's so cool because you guys get to do what you guys do. And even if it's just a little fraction of what you guys can do, it gives that people to look like, "Yo, man, this dude, I can see him having great matches." And then you watch their actual matches. Like that's how I actually saw you, is on an AEW dark match. And I'm like, "Man, this dude has a look. He can go." I'm like, I'm curious what he could actually do in a one-on-one match that's longer and actually could become the victor here. So I've watched your matches, man, and I'm like, this dude's incredible. But Jason Hotch, man, you teamed up with him in an AEW dark match, if I'm not mistaken. It was an 8-man tag. He was on my show last week, and he said that at a Warrior event, I think it was the last one, people were coming up to you with a picture of him and asked you to autograph it. Let's talk about that. How did that go?
So evidently Jason and I have very similar stature. We have very similar facial hair. Both of our hair does this little thing to the side. His is longer than mine, but we both have beards, and we're both white boys. So evidently you look like each other. So we were sitting there, and I was at the pre-show meet and greet. Everyone was in line to meet Bret Hart, and people were starting to funnel off of Bret and start seeing that there was wrestlers out there. I had literally 2 people within the first 5 seconds walk up to me, probably back to back with each other. Probably didn't even realize what the other person in front of them did. And he's like, "Hey man, can you sign your picture for me? I'd really enjoy it." So I take the picture and I go to look at it. I'm like, "Who do you think I am?" And they go, "Well, you're Jason Hotch, right?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "This ain't me." And I told him, I was like, "Jason's here, but he's in the back right now." I was like, "But this ain't me." And they go, oh, I was like, yeah, I'm the Cowboy. And they're like, oh, that's right, that's right. And they pull out the other one and have me sign it, right? Well, as soon as that guy leaves, the guy behind him, maybe it was the guy behind him. It wasn't very long afterwards. Literally comes up to me and does the same thing with another picture of Jason Hotch. It was like, hey, sign this for me. It's an honor watching you wrestle. I'm like, who do you think I am? But he tells me the same thing. And I go through the whole thing with him. And so at the end of the night, after me and Jason kind of got our stuff done, because we had things to do as well for wrestling, I told him, I was like, hey, man, I just want you to know Chicago thinks I'm you. So I don't know if Chicago thinks you're me or what, but I had people asking me to sign on your picture today. And he was like, no way. I was like, yeah, I had at least 2 people come up to me and with pictures of you in your ring gear asking me to sign it. And hey, Jason, no, I'm not Jason Hotch. So,
oh man,
future
that's so funny.
There's 2 different people. Jason Hotch and I are 2 different people. We are not the same person.
Well, believe it or not, at the one event that I was at that we were talking to a little before that, somebody came up to me and said, hey, is that Trevor Outlaw? And I was like, no, that's Chandler Hopkins. And I was like, I can kind of see it because of the beard, but I'm like, I don't fully see it, man. It's like, I thought it was hilarious because I'm like, yeah, there's no way that he's Trevor Outlaw. He's not Jason Hotch. He's Chandler Hopkins.
You just make us all look the same.
Oh man, that's hilarious. I don't know, man. It might be just the beard, bro. Like it's just the beard.
Well, off anytime soon, so everybody just better get used to seeing Chandler, not Jason.
There's 3 different guys. Trevor Outlaw, Jason Hotch, Chandler Hopkins.
So I used to, when I started wrestling, I used to get the Wade Barrett, Bad News Barrett. I used to get that a lot, and I used to get Austin Aries a lot as well. And I'm just like, screw y'all.
That's hilarious, dude. Austin's probably like a foot shorter than you, bro. Like,
yeah, easily.
Oh man, that's awesome. But at that event though, you got to wrestle Buddy Murphy. How was that? Because I mean, that was one of his first matches on the indies since before his WWE days. So how did that feel being in the ring with somebody who's so amazingly gifted in that ring, like Buddy Matthews? How was that experience?
The whole experience was really kind of crazy because I wasn't even supposed to be at that show. When the 6-man tag match or 6-man match happened the month before, whenever I was in there with all those guys, I had asked the promoter before that match went out. I was like, hey, I cleared my schedule for the rest of y'all's dates for this year. And I was just wondering if y'all would like to use me. And he just told me right then and there, he's like, at the moment, I just can't say yes because I think we've got a full schedule, but I'll let you know. After the 6-man match happened, we were sitting down. I was at the pay window talking with him, and he literally gives me a date right then and there. It's like, hey, you impressed us so much tonight. We want you back at the next show. Here it is. You still have the dates open, correct? I was like, yes, sir. I cleared them. So he gave me the next show and didn't tell me. He's like, we got something big for you. Don't know when we're going to let you know, but we'll let you know. I was like, okay. So I wasn't thinking anything like Buddy Matthews big at all. Like, that's not what I expected for my first one-on-one match for Warrior, because it's up until that point I had been in multi-man or a 6-man tag.
Yeah.
So whenever he calls me, he was like, hey man, we're fixing to drop the flyer. Just want to make sure you were good with it. We're going to put you with Buddy. And I was like, huh? Yeah, we're going to put you with Buddy Matthews. And I was like, straight from WWE Buddy Matthews? He was like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, let's do it. And I had about a month and a half to really prepare myself for that. And I was like, all right. Once I hung up the phone with him and the flyer dropped, I was like, preparation for this match right here starts now. So I was in the gym. I was getting bigger because I seen how big he was. I actually gained in a month and a half, I gained 15 pounds just so I could get to a point where I felt more comfortable being in the ring with him. And, when I got there, he wasn't as big as I thought he was. It was one of those things where I was like, oh, I'm not really much. He's beefy. Yeah. But I'm the same height. Actually, I was a little bit taller than he was. But so we had really good stature. And whenever I got there, it was just one of those things like, okay, hey, I'm nervous as hell, but at the same time, I got a job to do. He's a professional. I'm a professional. Let's go out here and let's make magic. And when we started talking in the back, there's a couple of guys that already told him about me a little bit. And Casey Navarro was one of them. And Casey Navarro and I roomed at Warrior that week, and he told me that he had talked to Buddy about me several times and put me over. And so I think Buddy understood and was ready for the match that we had given each other. It was just one of those things where they wanted to see him more than anything else. And that was really cool because I'm used to in the places I'm a regular at, I'm used to they want to see me now. And that's really cool too. But to be on the flip side of that, to come out of Warrior, them knowing who I am, I get a good ovation. But once I got in the ring, was ready. The second Buddy's music hit, it was like nothing else matters. And you could just see like the attention just on to Buddy. It was crazy because you know how we were talking about the captivation that Sean and Rock have whenever someone comes out. I seen that in real life, in real present day, in a ring. I watched a crowd do that. And I was like, oh, okay, this match is about to be a little different than what we expected. So it was just one of those things where they really were into the entire match, of course, but they wanted to see Buddy do his thing. So it felt like one of those things from like AEW Dark, where whenever they seen who I was wrestling and who the guy was, it was like, oh, well, we know who's winning.
Yeah.
So it was almost kind of deflating, but it didn't take away from the match for me. It took away from, you know, I feel like some of the crowd and excitement because they just already knew the way it was going to go down. They knew he was going to Murphy's Law on me, and whenever it happened, it was going to be it. So we just beat the shit out of each other. We had a fun match back and forth. We did a lot of cool stuff with one another. I've still yet to actually see the full match yet. I just haven't gone back and watched it yet. I've seen a lot of clips, and Wrestling with Unicorns has sent me a lot of clips as well. So I feel like I've seen the match, just like not everything in between. But the whole match was fun. I had a blast doing it. It was honestly probably one of the easier matches I've had in quite some time.
Oh, for sure, man.
It was just a nerve-wracking experience because, you know, of who he was and what he had done. And I'm just little old me from Amarillo, Texas, that's still trying to build a name, and I'm fixing to step in the ring with a superstar. That's ridiculous to me, and it's been happening a lot here lately. I mean, I'm fixing to wrestle Dalton Castle next week. Like next Friday, I step in the ring with Dalton Castle. Like, who would have ever thunk it? I was one of his boys 5 years ago at a show in Oklahoma for Oklahomania. And here I am 5 years later fixing to smack him in his mouth and go toe to toe with him in a wrestling ring. Like, it's just the whole process over this entire year has been crazy, and I'm enjoying the ride.
It's crazy because I watched a couple of those highlights too. I didn't get to watch the full match yet, but I watched the highlights and I'm like, yeah, dude, he's going toe to toe with Buddy Matthews. Like, there's no like Buddy's taking advantage of Chandler right now. Like, you went toe to toe with Buddy Matthews, and that dude's just an incredible talent. I think WWE really wasted the potential they had with him, unfortunately. And dude is just insane.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he gets enough credit for how talented he is, because normally it's one of those things where I like to, like we was talking about earlier, I like to control a little bit here and there and do my own thing. But just watching him put things together while we were in the ring and how he was controlling the crowd and how we were moving on to certain things, I was just like, oh, this is really cool to watch and to see. So yeah, he was really adamant on making it look like a war. He didn't want it to look like he came in and just kicked my ass. He was like, I want it to look like that super underdog story where I took everything for granted, thought it was too damn easy, and you're about to beat my ass, and if I don't finish it, I'll lose. And I was like, okay, sweet, let's do it. So I feel like that's the match we put on, and you know, it was a blast. Thank you, Warrior Wrestling. Thank you, buddy, and let's do it again.
Oh, I hope so, man. I would love to see a Warrior again and actually get to stay and watch it. Now, one more match I want to talk about before my final question for you. You wrestled a match against Jackson Stone, who I think is absolutely an incredible human being for what he does for the mental health community. Him and I actually have a second show together about mental health that we're doing once a month. We just started last Wednesday. But he's an amazing dude. I thought that was a really great matchup. What was your experience like wrestling Jackson? And then have you wrestled him multiple times or just the one time?
I wrestled Jackson more times than I can think of, which is crazy because the very first time we wrestled each other, both of us hated the match. Not because it was a bad match, just because the energy wasn't there. Certain things were off. We didn't know how to play off of each other. My character is more so one of those things like I'll keep taking the beating, but keep coming kind of thing. And I think at one point in time, I really pissed him off because he hit me with a move. And I sold up to my knees real quick and just looked at him. And he had turned his back to me. And when he turned back around to me, I had my finger in his face, flipping him off, telling him to give me some more. And I don't think he really liked that and gave me a pretty good shot. So I gave him one back. But it was in that moment, I think, that we realized that we were just doing our different characters. It's not that we didn't like each other, because we were good friends, even the first time we wrestled each other. But it was just one of those things where we quickly picked up on that neither one of us go straight by what we talk about in the back. We have things we like to do on the fly. We're going to listen to the crowd, and we have to adapt. And now that I've wrestled him, like I said, more times I can count, he's one of my favorite people to wrestle. We have such good chemistry now. And I don't think since that first match that we've had, I don't think we've had a single bad match that either one of us have been like, yeah, I don't like it. It was horrible. Like, we've had feuds over titles. We've gone back and forth. We've traveled to different promotions and beat each other's asses. Like, he is literally one of those guys that I think, like, if a promoter came up to us in the bag and said, hey, we need one more match, who can go right now? Jackson and I could look at each other and say, yeah, let's do it. We don't need to plan anything. Who's winning? And he could say, we want you to go over. Cool. We could figure out how we're going to get to the finish, and we could go out there and simply do it.
Yeah.
Like, I trained with him. We've been in training rings with each other multiple times, many times. We've trained people together. Like, he is literally one of my closest friends. He may be one of those guys that I don't have, those friends like you don't have to talk to on a day basis, or maybe even like once a week. It's just one of those things where you could reach out to him whenever you need to, or you just talk to him. That's what we are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Busyness. We respect each other's, way of life, but at the same time, we understand each other. We each have our own life, and we respect that. But when we get a chance to hang out, when we get a chance to go on our vacations, because he's part of one of the vacation crews that I go with. We have a little group called the Beaver Boys, and it's girls, and there's 9 of us, and we go on vacations every year. Last year we went on 2. We've already got one planned for January, and we do Friendsgiving with each other. So we're currently trying to figure that out. So Jax and I are a big part of each other's lives. And I just can't say enough good stuff about him. He does amazing things for so many people through You Are Loved, and just Jackson Talks to Everybody. This past weekend, we were actually in Arlington, Texas at the ballpark, and we did a suicide prevention walk, which he is really big into, as you know, because it's certain. But it was just really cool to be able to be there and see that many people standing strong and just really trying to keep fighting and moving on for those they had lost, or even themselves that have attempted to do certain things. And to see that Jackson's a big part of that community and really doing what he can to make a difference, is just to see him in his element was really cool. So like I said, I could go on all day talking about Jackson. I really could.
Oh, me too. I mean, everything that man has done to even help me. I mean, I see what he does for other people. Like, Jackson is probably the most humbling human being I've ever met. One of the most down to earth people, and just the heart he has is probably the biggest and most pure. Like, his uplifting post every single day, like, it is just so inspiring, and it makes me want to be a better person. Like, that's why I want to do my other show. It's called Me, My Mental Health, and I. And Jackson and I, like, I asked Jackson a month beforehand. I'm like, hey, I got this idea. I want to run it past you. I want you to be my co-host on this show. It's going to be once a month, and we'll talk about mental health. And he's like, yeah, I'm on board. So I'm like, dude, this is awesome, because there's nobody else in this world that I would want to talk about mental health with and try to help others understand it more than with Jackson. He's such an incredible human being. And I don't know where I'd be today without him,
Yeah, it's crazy in general, just whenever you're talking to him about that, just because sometimes you don't understand, like, you're trying to be nice to someone who might be in a situation like that, but you're saying the wrong things being nice. Some people don't really want to hear sorry or, hey, I wish I could help, or things like that, because they've heard it so many times. And he's brought me into a mind of thinking, like, whenever I'm around someone who's having those issues or just venting to me, I've gotten to a point now where, like, I used to be a horrible listener. Like, I just was. I just didn't, I don't know. I have ADHD. I don't know if that's the problem. I just see things and I'm like, ooh, cookie. He's really helped me understand the practice of listening and really paying attention to what people are saying. So
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point whenever people are doing that, I'm like, okay, cool. I can listen. And that might just be the best thing you need right now. So I'll sit there and listen to them. I'll keep my mouth shut and do my thing. And afterwards, I try and console them as best as I can. But sometimes there's just no words for it. Sometimes people just need a hug,
Yeah.
sometimes they just need to know that they're heard sometimes. So, and that's something he's done for me. He's made me a better person in that aspect and many other ways as well. So not a better person in the world to have for a co-host than him on that.
Oh, he's just absolutely an incredible human being. There's times where like, there's been certain things that like these wrestlers who had allegations against them last year came out and apologized and stuff like that. And you've seen people online like harass these people and say like drop dead or go kill yourself and stuff like that. And coming from somebody from mental health, even if I did something horrific that was found out about and people hated me for it, like I wouldn't want somebody to tell me to drop dead because it just affects you. And I told Jackson, I'm like, I feel like I'm guilty for feeling bad for somebody. And he's like, you shouldn't. People deserve a second chance, even, and he made me feel better, like about forgiving somebody for doing something and sounding sincere about what they said. Like there's a difference. You can tell when somebody's being sincere or just posting it just to post it. And there was one specific wrestler who apologized for what he did. And I believed it. I felt it. And it was just, I'm like, I feel bad for this guy because even if he did some stupid crap back then or whatever, he's learning from his mistakes. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's human. And I'm not saying I feel bad for what he did because what he did was wrong, but I feel bad for all the people that are coming at him saying, drop dead, go kill yourself, all this stuff, because if you're not going to say anything nice about it, just don't say anything, because you've seen so many, not just wrestlers alone, but so many celebrities out there who listen to these people that hate on them and then are like, all right, I guess I'll do it. There's been so many wrestlers within the last year alone. Daphne, just took her own life. And it's very heartbreaking because these wrestlers are just like us. We're human beings. You're a human being and I respect the hell out of you. So it's very heartbreaking, but I can turn to Jackson about stuff like that. And he's like, people are going to be like that, man. And it sucks, but you have a nice heart and you're forgiving and that's what it is. And, Jackson just makes me feel safe, I guess. he's just a great human being. So
very, a weird aura about himself that just makes you feel comforted. So yes, for sure. I understand where you're going with that. Absolutely.
So final question I'm going to ask you here, because I think it's probably the most beautiful shooting star press I've ever seen. I've watched wrestling my entire life. Well, since I've been 12, 13 years old. It's been a long time coming, but pro wrestling has been a big thing to me. And when I see a move done perfectly, I fall in love. Your shooting star is absolutely incredible. Who inspired you to do the shooting star press as your finisher?
Matt Seidel.
Matt Seidel. Okay.
People that have done it, but Matt Seidel has the rotation, and the way I see it in my head is like my feet should be almost touching my head while I'm rotating. There's a lot of people that do things small, like especially when you hit somebody in the ring, like people sometimes don't rear back to like give that big shot, like to show like you're actually fighting, to show the people up in the grandstands like, hey, you're actually fighting. So when people do the shooting star press, I feel like they're so scared that they're gonna hurt themselves. They jump straight up and they do this quick little tuck where it looks really crappy, and then they come down and splash. And I'm just like, but there's no big movement in that. There's no whoa factor. There's no that was freaking awesome, except for Matt Seidel's shooting star press, because his feet touch his head, and he is like, it's just weird to see, like it's a perfect circle all the way down. Nothing's out of place. You're not here with your feet out here trying to kick it back through, and your arms aren't waving all over the place, and you're not like trying to fix a rotation because you didn't rotate enough or you're over rotated. Like it's just a perfect circle whenever he does it. It looks like you can just draw a circle with his head staying in the middle and his feet out. And I was like, that's beauty. That's what a shooting star press should look like.
Yeah.
And I've never done a shooting star press. I've done gainers off of diving boards many times, and I grew up on a diving board, so I knew the motion of it, and I knew how fluent I could make it. But I was sitting there one day, and I told a buddy of mine, I was like, I think I want to start doing the shooting star press as my finisher. And he literally looked at me and goes, "You can't do it." He's like, "There's no shooting star press." And I just looked at him and I was like, bet. So the next day we went to training, and we was at MPX there in Dallas, Bedford area, Metroplex Wrestling. And they have a crash pad. Well, the crash pad folds up like this and comes out. So it has a line in the middle of it from the crease, right? So I take that crash pad and I set it out from the corner, but I open it where you can see the line. And so that was my aim. Like, the line is where I wanted my chest to land. And I got up there the first time, and I've been doing frog splashes for a while. I've been jumping off top rope, springboarding, so I wasn't scared of the height. My thing was, if I was going to do this, I had to give it everything I got, because if I went up there and half-assed, I was really going to hurt myself. Stephen Kirby, God bless this man. He has a motto that I say all the time now in wrestling, and he says it to his training guys whenever he's training people. 1, 2, 3, fuck it. So I stand up on that top rope, and I'm crouched in my little perch spot, and I start to stand up. And right when I get to the top, I just say 1, 2, 3, fuck it. And I just went for the shooter, and I landed perfect. And I sprawled out perfect. And it was just one of those things where in the moment, once I hit, I was like, oh, that was freaking awesome. Like, the adrenaline, the just hitting the mat all at once. Like, and once I hit, I looked to the guy that told me I couldn't do it. And it was first attempt, first try, boom, flawless, bam. And I looked at him, and I just didn't even have to say anything. His jaw was just like, holy shit, you really did. That was whenever I knew that I had something special with the shooting star press. Not because it's not been seen, because it's been seen so many times by many of people. But I just felt like, after watching the video of me doing it, I felt like, and just seeing jaw drop from someone who told me that I couldn't do it, that had been in the ring with me several times, sharing the ring with me, knew what I was capable of doing, that told me I couldn't do it. And seeing the jaw drop in the video, it was just like, okay, this has got to be it. This is my thing. Like, the shooting star press is my finisher now. And now it's crazy to see, like, even how many times I've done it, like, or how many people I've done it on. Like, I've done it on people that are stacked. I've done it on 3 people in front of me. Like, there was a match where myself and Jackson were in with Dirty Andy Dalton and Moonshine Mantell, and Moonshine had stacked them up on top of each other, went down for a pin, and they forgot about me on top of the ropes, and I hit a shooting star press on top of all 3 of them and took the win. Or it was actually for a big 4-way down. I hit, rolled off, and we were all down for a while. Whenever I hit that, because that was the first time I had ever attempted to even do that, because most time my rotation is pretty smooth. I wanted to barely hit right before I hit the ground. So I had to pick it up a little bit faster just to get the height off of the ground for the distance. And just, they were like, "Can you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do it." So going up and having to do that and making it looked as well as we did was just really cool. And I think at that point, once I did that with them, I was like, okay, now what's next? Where do I hit this thing from now? So I've done it. I've done a shooting star press to the outside of the ring onto people. Like, I'll have someone set down on the inside. If they have a manager or buddies on the outside, I'll have one of them go to grab me. I'll kick them off, turn around, do a shooting star press to the ground on them. Like, it's just a fun move to do. And I think once you really get down the motion of it, and getting past the fact that if you mess it up even just a little bit, you're screwed. Like,
Yeah.
There's just no room for error. And I think that's why you see a lot of people that do the jump, and then they have their feet that tuck, and they look like a ball, and they spin and open back up. Like, they're protecting themselves. And I get that. But it just doesn't look pretty. And that's one thing I want the shooting star to look like is I want it to be pretty. It's what people want to see me do mostly now. Hey, dude, you gonna do the shooting star? Hey, man, you gonna do the shooting star? They don't even care about all the crazy, stupid shit I do in the ring anymore. I like to tease it. Like, sometimes if I'll give it to you, sometimes I won't. Sometimes I win with a roll up. Sometimes I win with submission. Like, maybe you will see it. Maybe I'll miss it. I don't know. When honestly, I don't mind missing it because it's an easy bump.
No, for sure, man. But no, like I said, man, I mean, there's obviously 3 before years that I absolutely loved. And then I seen yours and I'm like, dude, this is the most beautiful shooting star I've ever seen. It was Billy Kidman, obviously, Paul
Yes.
London, and Matt Seidel. Obviously with Matt Seidel, he hasn't done it really since that botch in AEW, unfortunately, and people gave him a lot of crap for it. Unfortunately, what they don't understand is wrestling, it happens. You gotta, it happens. And I think Matt might have like listened to a lot of them and was like, all right, I'm not doing it anymore because we haven't seen him really do it since. But man, I'll never forget the shooting star press into that RKO that he took from Orton.
Beautiful.
It was beautifully done. The chemistry between both of them in that moment was just insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, ever since that, man, ever since I started seeing yours, I'm like, dude, I never want to watch anybody else hit a shooting star press ever again because Chandler's is incredible. And I mean that with almost sincerity, man. Like it's beautiful. Beautiful.
I've had people ask me what the name of it and everything is, and I just haven't come up with anything. But someone told me not too long ago, it's just thinking about it. It's like, it really suits it and fits it really well because it fits my gimmick as well. And someone's like, you should just call it the 6 shooter. And I was like, yo, it's in it. Why wouldn't I? Like that's freaking like no brainer. So I think that's what we name it, is the 6 shooter, and we'll go from there. But I appreciate that. That's coming from someone who's seen many of the shooting star presses, even the guy that I model mine after and respect. And that, if he decides he never wants to do it again, that's fine. I'll do whatever I can to make it as beautiful as I can for as long as I can. But I would love to see him do, I would love to wrestle at AEW, take one from him, because I've never taken a shooting star press from somebody, and to take one from the man that I think did it the best, that would be pretty cool in itself. So who knows, Matt, you see this, let's make it happen, baby.
We'll tag him in this post and tell him we'll make it happen. We have to, man. That's just
beautiful shooting star ever.
There you go. Who has the best? Man, nah, absolutely. But I mean, shoot, dude, like I said, I mean, I watched a lot of your matches on YouTube. You have so many creative moves in there that I've never seen before. Obviously, there's possibly abilities that other people have done it that I haven't seen. Right. One move you've hit, I don't remember who it was against. I think maybe either Davey or Mike. But you rolled through from the outside of the ropes. You rolled through in and hit a flatliner right into it. Was that something you created, or did you follow that through with somebody else?
No, honestly, I don't know if I created it or not. I've seen many people do rolling flatliners, but they've always just been like from in the ring and usually out of a corner, or somebody comes off a rope and they roll and they hit a flatliner. But I really thought about it because I do a sliding German to the outside where I lay somebody onto the second rope and I slide underneath them to take that bump. And I usually just have them feed back to the middle because I'm already on the outside. And I was like, what can I hit from here? And I was starting to think of like springboards and everything. I was like, but everybody does a springboard. I can do them, but like, why am I going to do something that everybody else does? And I was like, but it's got to be something with the ropes. What can I do with the ropes? And I'm like, man, I'm on the ground. I could run, jump, dive through these motherfuckers. What can I do out of it? So one day I was literally just running and diving through the bottom rope, landing and rolling and just kind of jumping up in the air. Like, okay, do I do a big knee? Do I do like a big kick? What do I do here? And I was like, flatliner. Yeah. So I get, and I just do the roll from the ropes first. I roll from the ropes, jump up, and gave a buddy a flatliner on the mat. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try it from the ground. And he was like, you want me to bump on the ground? I was like, no. You're going to bump exactly where you just bumped, but I'm going to start on the ground. And he's like, how are you going to roll that far? And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. So I took a couple steps back from the apron and I just dove through, rolled, jumped up, and I hit him with the flatliner. And it was another one of those things, like once I hit him with it, like I was just sitting there looking at the ceiling, like that was, yes, let's do that. Right. And I've had people, Lowkey was very adamant on taking that move. He was like, I want to take that move from you. And I was like, okay. And so we figured that all out and give him the spike and everything and do the big cover. And he was like, I don't think people realize just how athletic that move is. It takes a lot of mobility to be able to jump through 2 ropes, roll, land on your feet, and jump back up into the air 7 feet from the ground from a crouched position and give a move. He was like, it's very, and at that point, I really hadn't thought about it that way, because I was like, I'm just rolling and jumping up in the air and taking a back bump. Like, but whenever he told me that and kind of put it into perspective, I was like, holy crap, like, you're right. And he was like, yeah, don't ever stop doing that. And I was just like, cool. So now I try to find different ways to put it into certain things. And I've done it to 2 people. I've done it in tag matches or multi-man matches, have them get somebody out or start to kick each other. I've done it. I've actually, my favorite way to do it is I did it in a 4-man match, a 4-way match with who else was in this match? It was me. It was Nathan Bradley. It was Will Austin. And there was one other person. But I do this spot where I had them get rid of me, and they all 3 started fighting back and forth. Well, there was 2 of them here and then 1 of them here. So it looked like they were in a triangle if I would have connected the lines. Well, I rolled in, and the 2 people in the front, I was giving the flatliner to, but at the same time I rolled in, I drop kicked the person in front of me and gave the double flatliners at the same time. And there was no better feeling than just watching and being in that moment of taking out 3 people with that move. And I was just like, there's so many ways that you can hit this. There's so many different things that you can do with this as well. So I'm glad that it sticks out to people, because it's a move that I really try to add to my repertoire as much as possible, simply because I feel like it's something people don't see a lot.
Oh, for sure, man. And like I said, you see it from the corner, you see it in the ring, but I've never seen it done from outside. And the way you do it in just one fluid motion like that is just incredible. So, like I said, man, I think you're insanely talented, incredibly agile. And you're just very fun to watch, dude. Like, absolutely incredible. I don't think I've seen any bad things from you in that ring that I'm like, man, he could have done that better. Obviously, I haven't really seen any of your first few matches in your career. Everybody grows, obviously, but you're absolutely fantastic, man. And it was such a pleasure to have you on this show and be able to chat with you for a while.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell the fans where
Appreciate
they could find you at on social media?
Yeah. So you can follow me at Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. All those are under the Young Gun _CH. So the Young Gun _CH. And then I just started a Twitch channel. You can follow me on Twitch as well if you like anything video game wise. I do a lot of video games and stuff. I'm currently playing Back 4 Blood, which is a Left 4 Dead knockoff series. It's not really a knockoff, it's an enhancement because the game is awesome. But you can Twitch at Captain _Pew Pew _ and it's also in my links in my socials, so you can usually click on them and find it.
We'll definitely have to run that game once, because I've been playing it too. So we'll definitely
playing it on
for sure. But yeah, no, man, Chandler, what's up?
What are you playing it on? Are you playing it on Xbox, PlayStation?
Xbox.
Let's link up. I'll send you my gamer tag after this, and we can play a little bit. Actually, I'm going live as soon as we're done with this. So
there you go. Yeah, man, for sure. Definitely, we'll have to get together and play a couple of games of that, because I wanna be able to play it all the way through. I haven't played it all the way through yet. So
you haven't finished Act 3 yet?
No, not yet. Okay. I barely got it past Act 1. So
I just finished Act 2 yesterday, and I'm starting Act 3 today, so it's gonna be fun.
Well, we'll have to do it definitely, for sure, man. But man, it was a very, very big pleasure to have you on my show. I really enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully one of these days soon I can catch you live and wrestling.
We'll make it happen. We'll have a good time. And next time we talk, we'll do something, and it'll just be one of those things where I finally remember the face, and I won't have this awkward thing. Oh my God, I feel bad.
No, you're good, man. Absolutely. You guys, this was episode 47. We are 3 episodes away from episode 50. It was such an honor to have Chandler on season 1 here, guys. Make sure you guys follow him on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and go watch him Twitch, man. It's going to be awesome. You guys take care, and see you guys next time.
Later.